Welcome to episode 140 of Gods and Heroes of Ancient Greece. My name is MyLinda Butterworth, and today we continue with the tale of Odysseus and the story of Odysseus tells of his wanderings to the Phaeacians, with part 2 of his story of the Cicones, the Lotos-Eaters, the Cyclops, and Polyphemus. At nightfall, the loathsome shepherd returned with his flock. This time he did not leave any of the animals in the court, but drove them all into the cave. Perhaps he was vaguely suspicious. Perhaps a god had decided to help us. After that, everything took its course, just as on the evening before. He put the stone back in its place. He ate 2 of our number. While he was busy with this, I had filled a wooden jug with the dark wine from our wineskin. Then I approached the Cyclops and said, "Here, take it and drink. Wine tastes good after human flesh. I want you to know what a precious brew we carried with us on our ship. I took it with me to offer you in return for hospitality and for helping us to get to our country. But you have dealt very differently with us. May no mortal ever visit you hereafter." The Cyclops took the jug without deigning to reply and emptied it in one gulp. It was easy to see how delighted he was with the strength and sweetness of the wine. For the first time he spoke in cordial tones. "Stranger," he said, "give me another drink, and tell me your name so that I may offer you a gift. For we Cyclops also have good wine, and now I shall tell you whom you see before you. I am Polyphemus." So said the Cyclops. Now I was only too glad to give him more of my wine. 3 times I filled the jug, and 3 times he was stupid enough to drain it to the last drop. When the drop began to do its work and his mind clouded, I said, "You want to know my name, Cyclops? I have a rather odd name. It is No Man. All the world calls me No Man. My father and my mother and all my friends use this name." The Cyclops replied, "Well then, here's the gift I have in mind for you. No Man is the one I shall eat last of all his companions. Are you pleased with the gift, No Man?" But the last words sounded blurred. His tongue was heavy. He leaned back and then sprawled on the floor. His thick neck was bent, and in his drunkenness he vomited human flesh and wine. And now I quickly held my staff in the glowing ashes until it caught fire. When it began to glow, I drew it out, and with my 4 comrades I pierced his great eye and turned the staff like a carpenter drilling timber for a ship. His lashes and brows were scorched, and his eye hissed like a hot iron in water. He leaped up with a howl so loud that the whole cave shook, and we fled into its farthest corners. Polyphemus jerked the staff out of his eye and flung it away, while the blood streamed from the socket. Then he began to rage around like a madman. He shrieked and shouted and called on his fellow Cyclops, who lived scattered over the mountains. They came running from all sides, surrounding the cave, and asked what had happened. "No man is murdering me," he cried. "No man has tricked me." When the Cyclops heard this, they said, "Well, if no man is hurting you, what are you shouting about? You must be out of your mind, but that is sickness we have a remedy for." They went away. My heart swelled with satisfaction. And now the blind Cyclops began to stumble through the cave, still moaning with pain. He took the stone from the opening, but he himself sat down in the entrance and groped about with his hands to catch any one of us who tried to go out with the sheep, for he thought me dull enough to attempt such a thing. But I was again busy with plans and finally found a way. All around us were many large rams with thick, heavy fleeces. These I bound together in 3s with the willow withes of the Cyclops' sleeping mat. Every middle ram carried under his belly one of our men, while the rams on either side protected this secret burden. I myself chose the bellwether, who was bigger than all the rest. I gripped his back, worked myself down under his belly, and clung to his curly wool. This concealed under the beast, we waited for morning. At dawn, the rams were the first to go out to pasture. The ewes bleated in the stalls with stiff, full udders waiting to be milked. Polyphemus carefully passed his hands over the back of the rams to make sure no one was on them, but he never thought of reaching around under them. My wheeler came last, for he was slowed by the burden he bore. Polyphemus stroked him too and said, "My good bellwether, what makes you go out of the cave so slowly? Usually you do not let any of the rest of the flock get ahead of you. You are always first on the meadow at the brook, and in the evening first to return to your stall. Are you sad because your master has lost his eye? If you could talk, I am sure you would tell me where those scoundrels and his companions are hiding. Once I have dashed out their brains against these stone walls, I could recover from the sorrow which no man has brought me." So said the Cyclops, and let the weaver pass. Now all of us were outside. The moment we were a short distance from the cave, I let myself drop to the ground, and then loosed my companions. Alas, there were only 7 of us left. We embraced and lamented for those we had lost, but I signed to them not to weep aloud, but to drive the rams quickly to our ships. And when we sat on the rowing benches safe and sound, when the ship slid smoothly over the waters, and we were a herald's cry from the shore, I called out to the Cyclops, who was climbing the hill with his herd, "Let me tell you, Polyphemus, that you have eaten the companions of a man who is by no means insignificant. At last your evil deeds have been requited, and you have felt the punishment of Zeus and the other gods." When Polyphemus heard this, he broke into a savage fit of rage. With a violent wrench, he tore a huge rock from the mountain and hurled it at our ship. And his aim was so accurate that he missed the stern by only a very little. Even so, the waves rose high from the splash of that huge block of stone, and our ship was driven back to the shore, so that it took all our strength to row forward and away from the giant. And now I called to him a second time, although my friends feared another rock, and tried to prevent me. "Listen, Cyclops," I shouted. "If anyone should ever ask you who blinded you, you shall give a more correct answer than you gave the Cyclopses. Tell them that you were blinded by the conqueror of Troy, by Odysseus, son of Laertes, who lives on the island of Ithaca." At this, the Cyclops howled with fury and grief and called, "So, the ancient prophecy has been fulfilled. Years ago a soothsayer, Telemus, son of Eurymus, lived on our land and grew old there. It was he who told me that Odysseus would deprive me of my sight. I always thought this Odysseus would be a huge fellow like myself, that he would challenge me to single combat. But now it is this little chap who came, this weakling who fuddled me with wine and put out my eye when I was drunk. I beg you to return, Odysseus. This time I shall be a good host to you, and ask the sea god to take you home safely. For you must know that I am the son of Poseidon, and he and no other can heal me." With that, he began to pray to his father Poseidon to keep me from reaching my country. "And should he return," he ended, "let it be after many years. Let him be sad and alone on the ship of strangers, and let him find nothing but unhappiness when he returns to his home." So we prayed. Poseidon granted his prayer. When he had been done talking, Polyphemus gripped another rock and tossed it toward us, and this time, too, it almost hit us. But we managed to row out of the swirl of waters and soon reached the island where the rest of our ships were riding safely at anchor. Our friends, who had been greatly troubled at our long absence, received us with cries of joy. As soon as we landed, we distributed the sheep we had stolen from the Cyclops. But in addition to my share, my companions agreed to give me the weaver who had carried me out of the cave. I immediately offered him up to Zeus and burned the legs of the beast in his honor. But the god spurned the sacrifice and refused to be propitiated. It was his will to let all our ships and all my companions perish. But we did not know this at the time. We were carefree and gay and feasted and drank until the sun set in the sea. Then we lay down on the shore and fell asleep to the sound of the surf. When the sky reddened with dawn, we boarded our ships and rowed on toward home. And here is where I end my tale for today. But I'll be back with more tales, many more tales. Until then, my friends, enjoy the journey.